皆さん、こんにちは。花です。今日は私の日本旅行についての Q&A です。遅くなってしまってごめんなさい。でも、楽しんでもらえたら嬉しいです。Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another video today. I am finally doing my Japan trip Q&A. I know you've been waiting for this for so long. I wanted to wait a little while so that I could get a lot of questions to come through, and I'm going to try and answer every single one that came through. So if you did post a question, thank you so much. I am excited to answer all of them for you. Now, just a quick disclaimer, of course, these questions are going to be fully based off of my own experience. I might have an experience that could differ from yours if you are choosing to go. A few of you are asking questions of advice and that sort of thing, and I'm gonna do my best to give you that advice or tell you what happened to me, but keep in mind everyone's trip to Japan is different. We went to Japan for an entire month, which means we got to see a lot of cities that the average traveler won't get to see. So just keep that in mind as I talk about this, especially if your question was regarding advice. Now, I did get quite a few questions in English as well as some in Japanese, so I'm gonna section this off. I'm gonna start with the English questions. I'm going to read them in English and respond to them in English. And then for the Japanese questions, I'm going to attempt to read them in Japanese and attempt to answer in Japanese. It might be a very basic answer that I will then elaborate on in English. I am still very much working towards getting better at the language. I did not stop learning just because I got home from my trip. And honestly, being in Japan made me realize I have a long ways to go. So I'm gonna do my best to answer those questions in Japanese, but I might have to switch to English just because I don't really know how to express my emotions in Japanese yet. My knowledge of the language is still small enough that I really can just say sentences as fact. But we're gonna dive right in, but before we do, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts on my trip. You can also follow me on social media. My Instagram is a little bit ahead of the photos that I am posting here, so if you're interested in keeping up on my trip pictures, because I still have probably more than half of the trip to go to post, follow me on Instagram at Hannah Malay, and it's linked in my description. You can also follow me on TikTok for my fun Demon Slayer short form content at Hannah Malay, and then you can follow me on X at lookingnerdy for all of my fun, just random thoughts throughout the day. With that, let's get into it. Okay, mind the angle and lighting change. I realized like half my face was in the shadow, so I'm trying to get that fixed. I recently changed my setup and my lighting and everything, so I'm still experimenting with it a lot, so don't mind me while I figure that all out. But my first question, I'm gonna start with a fairly straightforward one. How much out of 10 did you enjoy the trip, and what would you change about the trip? So I'm gonna be a little bit different. I feel like a lot of people that visit Japan would absolutely answer with 10. I'm gonna say it was a solid 9. And that is only because I've never been that weary of crowds. I've always been fine in crowds. However, I feel like by the end of my trip, and it might be because I was there for a month, I felt very overstimulated by the lack of personal space that I could get without being at my hotel. In America, there's a lot of time where you're just kind of alone, whether that be while you're driving somewhere. I grew up in a part of America. I've literally never had to rely on public transport. I got my license at a young age and I drive everywhere that I go, which there's definitely pros and cons to that. However, I think that going to Japan actually gave me a newfound appreciation for being able to commute to my daily stuff in my own space with my own music without a bunch of people staring me down. Now, of course, driving is not my favorite thing, and drivers here in America are absolutely insane, but it did give me a new, it's kind of nice to be in my own personal space. So just because I got a little bit overwhelmed with all of the crowding and just constantly being around people. But other than that, the cleanliness of the cities that we went to, the food was all so good and so cheap. Everything we did was really fun. There was nothing that we did where we were like, I wish I didn't do that. There was definitely some times where we were like, I wish I did do that. But overall, it's a 9 because we're definitely gonna go back and I enjoyed myself. I just got inside my head a little bit. What would I change about the trip? Honestly, nothing. This trip worked out really well. Again, I went for a month, so we were able to explore more than just the Golden Route. If anything, I would actually say maybe I would have chosen to go to a few less cities. At the beginning, the first week and a half of our trip, we were actually doing a lot of one-night stays. So we would get to a city, we'd have a few hours to explore, eat dinner, we'd go to bed, and then we'd have a very short period of time in the morning to explore before we had to check out and hit the next city. It was very fast paced. I got a little bit tired of that. I had wished that there were some cities that I loved that I wanted to spend more time in, but we just didn't have time because we had to go to our next spot. My husband absolutely loved this way of doing things. I wished that we maybe did a couple less cities during the first trip, but then again, I loved all of the cities we visited, so trying to get rid of one of them would have been really hard. Next question was, I saw you went to Kanazawa. I want to know how it was in Kanazawa and where you went. Honestly, Kanazawa was one of my favorite spots in the trip. I really wish we had spent more time there because Kanazawa was giving me that like traditional Japanese feeling. We went to the Nagamachi district, we went to Higashichaya, and I felt like I've been transported literally into another world because in America we have nothing like that. We don't have any type of like long history because our country is one of the newer countries that was built off of a lot of other cultures. There's just not a lot of cultural things to do here. So going to Kanazawa and getting to experience that like cultural, historical Japanese districts without the crowding of Kyoto was amazing. It was 100% one of my favorite places. I got to rent a kimono there and I had a lot of fun getting a lot of fun pictures. I had to change out of my kimono when I went to the Higashichaya, but it was all so amazing and I would absolutely go again, which is the perfect segue into the next question, which was, what was your favorite location in Japan that you went to? So I first want to just say I loved everywhere that we went to. Every single city had a lot of similarities to others, but were different in its own way. And to those of you who don't know, I will list out all the cities that we went to. We started in Tokyo. We went to Nagano, Kanazawa, Himeji, Hiroshima, Fukuoka, Okinawa, Nagoya, back to Tokyo, then to Fujiyoshida, Kyoto, Osaka, Okayama, Kobe, Yokohama, and then back to Tokyo. Again, we were there for a month and we did a lot of one-night stays, which is why we were able to do so many. Kanazawa is definitely probably at the end of the day the favorite spot that I went to. However, I will say I actually really enjoyed Osaka. I wish we had spent more time there because the nightlife was super fun, and I actually have some of my favorite memories of the trip in that city. And then my husband and I also really loved Yokohama. Yokohama is very close to Tokyo. It's only like a 40-minute train ride or a 10-minute Shinkansen if you want to just get there super fast and spend a little bit more money. Yokohama was one of the ones we only did one night in, and we both really agreed on that one. We want to spend more time there the next time we go to Yokohama because there was a lot to explore, and you still got that city feeling, but it wasn't as packed with tourists. It just wasn't as crowded, and there was just a lot to do. So we really enjoyed Yokohama. But I would say Kanazawa was my favorite of the trip. I enjoyed more of the traditional spots where we rented kimono and we got to see a lot of the culture and the temples and the preserved streets from hundreds of years ago. I just felt much more immersed. When I go to another country, I want to immerse myself in the culture. So going to big cities is fun and all, but you can go to big cities here in America too. But going to these areas where there's all these amazing like preserved Japanese buildings and that sort of thing was really my bread and butter of this trip. Next question, have you been to the locations featured in Medalist? So like Nagoya and Kyoto. Yes, I went to both. I unfortunately did not get to go to any of the ice rinks because we set up our trip the way that we did. Nagoya, we only did one night and we went to the UFO Table Cafe while we were in Nagoya. We also flew in from Okinawa to Nagoya, so we got there later than most of the other cities we were going to. We just ran out of time, unfortunately. I was pretty sad about that. That was definitely one of my most moments of, man, I really missed out. I really wanted to see the rink where most of Medalist is taking place, but I'm gonna go back to Japan. I will go when that happens. We also went to Kyoto. We were there for actually 3 nights, so 4 days total. The thing with Kyoto was that we actually went there with my entire friend group, which was 9 of us. So there were 7 other people that joined my husband and I when we were about a week and a half into our trip, and these are some of my closest friends. When we were in Kyoto, we actually were staying at a house together, all 9 of us, and so we did a lot of things together. We rented kimonos, we saw most of the main temples and shrines, and so because of also where our Airbnb was located, we didn't have time to really explore like the city part of Kyoto. We just saw like the main tourist attractions. So I did not get to go to the rink there either. However, I did get to visit Nagoya and Kyoto, and I really enjoyed both of them. All right, so next one is, what were things that surprised you about traveling in Japan? Favorite places or activities that you'd recommend to others, anything you wanted to do but didn't get the chance to. So I feel like I've kind of touched on a couple of these. The thing that surprised me the most, nothing really surprised me. I would say honestly, and I shouldn't have been surprised about this, was I was not ready to speak Japanese to locals. As soon as I got there, I was like, oh Lord, I did not practice speaking enough and I did not practice listening enough. I knew a ton of vocabulary, I knew a ton of grammar going into it, but when it came down to it, being able to hear someone that was a native speaker say it at the speed that they talk, because they all talk very fast, and the level, like volume, they speak very quietly there. I was not prepared to just not be able to understand it. And sometimes they would repeat themselves in Japanese and I actually understood it. Sometimes they would just switch to English thinking I fully didn't understand what they were saying, when it was just like, I think I know what you said, but I couldn't hear you because it's super quiet. How quiet they speak compared to here is insane. There is a reason why my group of friends and I, we literally had to practice speaking quieter because we knew people were going to be quiet. You don't understand how quiet they speak until you're there. It's crazy. So I would say that was the thing that surprised me the most, even though I shouldn't have been surprised. I was just not prepared, and I ended up really struggling throughout a lot of the trip with trying to communicate with people because I tried to speak Japanese to them, but most of the time they just switched to English, which I felt very bad about. But the next time I go, I'm gonna make sure I'm really, really confident in my language abilities and can really get around without having to use English. Next part of the question was favorite places or activities that you'd recommend to others. I will say this so many times. Go off the beaten path. Do not just do the golden route. The golden route was amazing. There is a reason why everyone does Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka. They were all amazing spots to go to, but Japan has so much more to offer than just those 3 spots. Mount Fuji was one of my favorite spots, was super relaxing and really, really beautiful. Kanazawa, though, is going to be the thing I tell everyone. Go to Kanazawa. It was so fun, and it was like, it's smaller than Kyoto. There's not as much to do there as Kyoto, but there's so many less crowds. It was amazing. And I know me saying that over and over again, the more and more people hear about how amazing Kanazawa is, the more it's going to get heavy tourism. But I think maybe if it spreads out and then Kyoto becomes a little bit less crowded, that might be a good thing. So go to Kanazawa and just explore. Be okay with going off of that regular path that everyone does. Spend a little bit less time in the main areas because you're gonna feel crowded all the time. Go to a different city that's maybe nearby. Do more day trips that's nearby. Just be willing to explore. That is by far the thing that I would recommend and that I enjoyed the most about the trip, is going to the places that just weren't as tourism heavy. Anything you wanted to do but didn't get the chance to. I mean, there were a lot of things that I didn't do because we were so quick. I already talked about the ice rink stuff. We didn't go to Osaka Castle, we ran out of time. And I wanted to go to the Ashikaga Park, which is the Wisteria Park. We didn't get to do that, which I was pretty sad about. But I don't regret anything. Like, there were definitely some things I wanted to do that I didn't get to do. There was a lot of stuff in Fukuoka that I wanted to do, but I ended up getting sick while we were in Fukuoka, which actually worked out because that was the first part of our trip where we stayed more than one night. So I had some time to just chill at the hotel, but there was so much that I wanted to do in Fukuoka that we just didn't do because I wasn't feeling great and we stayed at the hotel. The medicine there works wonders though, because we got there one day, I was feeling iffy. The next day we woke up early to go to some shrines and I started feeling really bad and I was like, I need to go to the hotel and rest. I took some medicine. I was feeling fine the next day. So it was super fast, but it was disappointing. I would definitely, I just regret not being able to do a ton in Fukuoka, but if you get sick, you get sick. You gotta stay in your hotel and rest. Do you have any tips or tricks on someone who's new to traveling to an amazing country like Japan? Do your research, and I mean it. A lot of people will try and say, you can be spontaneous and go to Japan. Absolutely not. Do not listen to those people. A lot of the things that you'll want to do require reservations, and some of those reservations are a lottery system, so you need to be prepared. A lot of them, the timelines for them is very strange, like the UFO Table Cafe only releases on Thursdays for the following week, and it's a lottery, and it was very confusing. And then we ended up messing up and thinking that the time frame that was there was your entrance time, when no, you are supposed to enter when it starts and then that's how long you have to finish. I felt really bad, but they were really nice. So we just ordered a couple drinks and then left, which was really disappointing because I was really looking forward to the UFO Table Cafe and we didn't really get to experience it, but it's okay. A lot of things require reservations. A lot of things require a lottery system ticket. You want to have things prepared. Now, there is a lot of spontaneous opportunity once you're there. I would say we were very spontaneous with our food and some activities. Most of the like castles and shrines and that sort of thing you can just go to. But do your research, look up the rules, look up how the public transport system works, look up what you should pack, everything. Make sure you do research, learn a little bit of the language, it'll be super helpful. It is Japan, they speak Japanese, okay? And I'm not saying you have to learn Japanese completely because I didn't and my friends didn't. However, I think it's super respectful to learn how to ask, do you speak English, which is eigo hanasemasu ka? And a lot of different things that can just make them a little bit more comfortable. And then make sure if they say like skoshi, say the English sentences, but take out all the filler words, like make it as simplistic as you can. And a lot of people will know how to help you, but don't just assume that people speak English. A lot of people in like Tokyo, that kind of area, speak a little bit to be able to get by, but learn Japanese. You don't have to study for hours upon hours a day and be really, really good at it, but learn enough to be able to say some simple sentences to people. So this is an interesting one. Is it creepy to be in Japan alone as a female traveler? So I was not alone, I was with my husband almost the entire time. There was actually only one time that I can think of where I was walking down a street by myself at nighttime, and that was actually the day we arrived. And when we got to the hotel, I was trying to figure out how to apply for the lottery for the Demon Slayer event. And as far as I could tell, I needed to go to a 7-Eleven and apply using their kiosk. So we were super tired, but it literally closed that night. So that was my only chance to do it. So I went outside and I looked for a 7-Eleven, and this was one of the only times I was outside by myself at nighttime, and I felt perfectly safe. When it comes to it being safe for women, there's a whole conversation to have there, but I felt safe the entire time I was there. In fact, what's interesting about Japan is we found that a lot of the best restaurant places are off of those like small back alleyways, where usually you see a small back alleyway in America and you think, I'm not going there, otherwise I'm going to die or get mugged or be kidnapped. One of a combination, maybe all of them, right? Back alleys are known for not being safe, especially in downtown areas, but in Japan, that was actually some of the best places to go to find food. So my husband and I actually commented quite a few times when we were on one of the many back alleys that we were on, how safe we felt, even though it was 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. People were drunk, but no one was gonna try anything. So I didn't really experience alone. I was with people at all times, and my husband, I felt perfectly safe. I think there's definitely merit in a lot of women not feeling safe because there is a lot of signs everywhere that says like no upskirting, which is the taking pictures. There were women only carts and that sort of thing. So you have to be a little bit more aware if you're alone as a woman, but I never felt unsafe while I was there. Favorite meal and go-to Japanese fast food restaurants and how much you spent on meals on average. Okay, so my go-to was definitely either ramen or tonkatsu, which is like breaded, I think it's pork. I ate so much of ramen and tonkatsu there that it was like I went through withdrawals when I got back because I missed it, and there's not really anything nearby where I live that is like good authentic Japanese food. Although we did just find one, but it's still like 40 minutes from my house to drive and it was super expensive. But my go-to is definitely ramen or tonkatsu. We ate a lot of gyoza as well, which are the dumplings. There were some restaurants that were just gyoza, like eat it for your full meal. So I would still say ramen and tonkatsu, but we tried a lot of different things. And then fast food, we found the fast food to be pretty similar, just the service was way better and there was a lot less like grease involved, but we did try Wendy's, McDonald's, and Burger King. And I think we preferred Burger King of the three, but all three were definitely, they had a lot of similarities. It tasted very similar, but the service was way better. Everything was a lot cleaner and it wasn't like dripping in grease like you can sometimes get here. And then average what we spent, this was definitely the hardest part coming back, was we averaged, and at like a restaurant, my husband and I, we pretty much had alcohol with every meal because we were on vacation. We had 1 to 2 to maybe even 3 drinks per meal, an appetizer that we usually shared, and an entree for each of us. And we were averaging around 3,000 to 5,000 yen per meal, which roughly translates to like 20 to 40-ish dollars for the 2 of us. Like that was total for all of that. So the nice thing about Japan, this is one of the things that you can save a lot of money on, is even if you're eating out a lot, there's a lot of great options that will save you money and still taste good. I literally went to Chick-fil-A here yesterday and it was $30 for me to just have chicken nuggets, fries, and a lemonade. Like, I was like, and then you also don't tip in Japan. So I actually went to a restaurant to meet up with some friends the day after I got home, and my bill for myself, I got a salad and water, like a meal salad, not a side salad, but a salad and water. And after tip, I spent $35. So I miss that aspect of things. So it's pretty cheap to eat there. You can definitely find places that will be more expensive. The last day that we were there, my friends and I went to a really nice like teppanyaki wagyu place, and we spent about $40 to $50 a person, which is roughly what my husband and I spend whenever we go out to eat. We pretty much, if we go out to eat, we don't go out to eat a ton, so when we do, we get drinks, we get an appetizer, we get food, and then along with tip, we pretty much can never keep the bill under 100 USD when we go out to eat here in the States. So yeah, I miss that a lot. Okay, next question. As an undergraduate student who's going to grad school soon, how would someone like me be able to afford the cost of going to Japan? Any advice on how to optimize budget costs when trying to plan a trip with my partner to Japan? Okay, so I still want to answer your question. I just want to be super, super transparent. I'm not a student. My husband and I work well-paying full-time jobs, and we spent a lot of time saving up for this trip so that we wouldn't have to feel like we were on a budget. So I can't really speak to trying to follow a budget on the trip. I will be honest, I spent a lot of money. I bought whatever I wanted, and we set ourselves up so that we could do that. I don't know if I'm really qualified to answer this question. However, I do want to tell you there are definitely ways to do it with a budget. Like I just mentioned, getting food there is way cheaper, and you can even like go to the kombini a lot. We actually didn't eat food from the kombini a ton. We more stopped there for waters and drinks and like little snacks, but we usually ate meals because every restaurant we went to was good. I think a big difference between Japan and America is that it seems like all of the restaurants, even if they're super cheap and super budget friendly, it's still like run by like a family, like it's been in the family business for a while. There's very few just like chains that have no heart. Most of the places that you go to, like the cook is gonna be taking your order and that sort of thing, and it just feels like they actually care. Like these are recipes that have been passed down through families, and I'm sure not all of them were like that, but we experienced so much more. Here, it's like hard to find a restaurant like that. Most restaurants that you can go to are chains that have no heart. It's just like the people that are working in the kitchen making this food are minimum wage employees that are overworked and underpaid, you know, that sort of thing. So you can find really good food for cheap. Like I said, we averaged usually like 40 bucks was the most we would spend on a dinner for the 2 of us to eat with all of the stuff that we were getting. So it's really easy to be on a budget food-wise. They also have a lot of budget-friendly hotel options. We didn't pick any of these, but they have the capsule hotels, they have hostels, where it's just like really budget friendly. And I think some capsule hotels are like 20 bucks a night, and they're clean and nice and good service and have good amenities. So there's definitely options. There's also options for flights. I will say I don't think there's really a way to fly cheaply right now. You're looking at probably spending $1,000 or more no matter what flight or airline you book. We also splurged a little bit and did Japan Airlines and flew over premium economy. So again, I am not a student and we saved up a lot of money. I'm not saying we're rich by any means. We are absolutely not, but we set it up in a way where we wouldn't have to worry about a budget. The other thing too, when it comes to shopping, you would have to be very careful. There is, of course, anime stores everywhere. So if you are someone who impulse buys very easily, you see a figure you like, you see that it's super cheap there compared to at home, and you just start buying things, you're still gonna spend a lot of money. Keep in mind, things there are cheaper. I got a figure, this Sanemi figure, which I don't think you can see, but it's a really nice figure. I'm not gonna pick it up because it'll probably fall apart because it's kind of hard to put together. but he's upside down. You can see his wind breathing effects around him. Would usually run for $35 to $55 here in the States, depending on where you are, if you're at a con, if you're on Amazon. I got it for $9.50. So there's definitely cheap options, but if you impulse buy and you just buy a lot, it adds up very quickly. So that is one thing, be very careful if you're someone who loves to buy anime stuff. It is very hard to stay on a budget there because there are animates and book-offs and figure stores everywhere. And it can be very difficult to have self-control there. So just be careful. But that you can go on a budget. I would say you need to keep in mind that flights are gonna be very expensive no matter what. But once you're there, you can definitely pinch your pennies and save a lot of money. I've heard people can do like a 2-week vacation and only spend $500 while they're there. We definitely didn't do that, but it is possible with the price of food and just the price of things in general. And also the yen is still fairly weak to the USD right now if you're located in the United States. I don't know if you're located somewhere else, but I don't know how qualified I am. I hope that helped, but you can definitely do it on a budget. Okay, next question. Was there a moment during your trip that felt special or meaningful? Absolutely, there were a lot. We went to a lot of shrines, we went to a lot of temples, and just trying to be in the moment and present with, you know, the spirituality of it was really huge. There was also a moment where my friends got engaged. So I think every moment in Mount Fuji felt really meaningful because Mount Fuji is crazy big and just so beautiful. But also my friends got engaged while we were there, so that was really meaningful. A lot of my special moments also was spent with my friends. I feel like my bond with them grew a lot deeper while we were there, and we spent a lot of fun times together. So I don't know if there's like a really particular moment that felt special or meaningful because the whole trip definitely did. I've never really traveled outside of the United States. I've been to Canada, but I was only there for a couple of hours to get on a boat to go to Alaska, which is a part of the United States. So just being in a different country and being in such a different culture and just taking all of that in, the whole entire thing felt very special and meaningful. I hope that answers your question. Sorry if that was really like, oh wow, you didn't even answer the question. How many cities did you visit and what character did you get the most merch of? So I definitely got I got a ton of Tanjiros. Yeah, so Tanjiro was the most. I got 7 items of his. I got 2 figures and 5 acrylic stands of Tanjiro. And then I don't remember the exact number. I mentioned earlier in this video what cities we went to. So just refer to the list that I posted earlier. Okay, with that, we are transitioning into the portion of the video where I will be reading off Japanese questions and attempting to answer them in Japanese. Inori-san no renshūjō no Nagoya no osusuke to rinku ni haimashita ka? Zannen desu. Ikemasen deshita. 悲しかったです。次は絶対に行きます。一番美味しいと思った食べ物は何でしたか？ラーメンです。ラーメンが好きです。とても好きです。めっちゃ美味しいです。行った場所で一番楽しかったところはどこですか？富士吉田です。富士急行きました。富士急楽しかったです。本当にまだ行きたい。日本でアイスリンクに行きましたか？行きませんでした。行きたいでした。でも時間ないです。最後質問です。10歳に日本に来てみて、日本や日本人に対する印象は変わりましたか？来る前に想像してたことと違っていたことは何ですか？難しい質問です。本当に何も変わっていないと思います。でも外国人だということで裁かれているように感じました。全部私の勘違いだったと思います。大丈夫ですよ。怒っていません。I think I really struggled with being an outsider. I've never been an outsider in my life because I've always fit in, at least in some ways, and so I had to really experience not always knowing what the right thing was to do, sometimes feeling frustration from locals because it was hard to communicate and that sort of thing. So I don't really think that my perception of Japanese people has changed, but I was surprised that I did feel like there were a lot of people staring at me more often and a lot of people probably annoyed with me. But again, I think that was probably all inside my head because I overthink things. So that was the only thing that I felt a little bit surprised about in that way. So my perception of Japanese people has not changed. Most of them were incredibly polite and very helpful if needed, but I definitely felt like people stared at me a little bit more, and that's okay. Okay, I think that was it for the questions. So thank you everyone so much for posting your question. I do have more content to come, I promise. It's just taking me a while because I have to play around with the editing and do something very different from what I'm normally doing. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, but if you liked it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts on my Japan Q&A. Keep an eye out for more stuff I might be posting because there is definitely, like I said, more to come. But thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you all next time. Mata ne!
The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't